Welcome back. In my last video, I mentioned that I had played 2 games recently against one of my subscribers, Anderson Connors, and I'd hoped to analyze both of those games in that video, but the first one went too long. Today, I'm going to look at the second one. That first one I lost on chess.com, and I think we found out why, and on this one, I won. It's not a spoiler, it's already showing on screen that I gained points and Anderson Connors lost points for this game. But anyway, it looks like we both did okay through 10 moves of the opening, and then I made a mistake. And I'm going to turn off the evaluation there so that I don't see what I should have played. I did see that e4 was my mistake, so I played the English. Anderson Connors played the symmetrical variation, at least out until here. That's where the first deviation from copying my moves is. I got the knight out, he moved a rook over, which I think it's because he was planning on playing the b-pawn at some point and didn't want the rook in line with that bishop, but it wasn't counted as a mistake by the game review. In fact, we are still fine out to here. And rather than diverting one of my center pawns, to take a not center pawn, which I did consider because I thought he might take back and then we could have a queen trade, that was okay, but I pushed past, which would threaten that knight, give me some more control on his side of the board. And he played knight to e5, which, appears to be a safe square for it. I don't know. I don't think I considered playing f5 to attack it because I noticed that this pawn over here was in danger, so I played b3 to protect it. He played e6 to, I guess, threaten my center control there, and e4. Why did I play e4 here? I guess to add another degree of protection to that square? Let's see. It looks like he has 2 pieces pointed there, and I have 3 defenders, so I should not have been worried about that. Maybe now I should have played f4. If I had played f4, I guess that knight would have just gone back, or maybe it could have gone forward. I'm not sure. Now, if it had gone forward, surely I could have threatened it with the h-pawn, although then I'm moving a bunch of pawns around my king. I don't know. I'm going to turn on the evaluation and see what it suggests here. It does suggest f4 or just taking that pawn. But f4 is, a few percentage points better, and it says that the knight would go to g4, which is what I thought, and then I would play h3, and the knight would have to go back to h6, and then I would take this pawn. That's and they would take back here, which opens up the rook. Okay. It doesn't look like that gives me that great of an advantage. I mean, I know that Stockfish says I would continue to have a mild advantage if I had played that way, but it looks like, other than the knight being in a somewhat awkward spot, it looks like we would be okay at that point. I mean, relatively equal. We would have the same number of pieces and pawns. The knight wouldn't be in any danger because by that point, his f-pawn would be gone and the knight could always have a place to run away. And also then he would have 2 center pawns and I would just have the one because this one got traded over here. But I did play e4 and that gives him a slight advantage if he will take here. But he did not take there. His next best move is b5, which looks like, I guess that's meant to chip away here. But I could just take it with my knight, and then he would take in the center, but I would be slightly ahead because he gave up the b-pawn for apparently no reason. That's, I guess, why there's a 1-point difference between those. And maybe he was thinking about playing b5, but he played a6 first, which puts the advantage back in my court if I will play f4. Well, I do understand why f4 is a good move. At least I think I do. It puts pressure on the opponent. And it does say that knight would go to g4, and then I would take the e-pawn. Oh, this time I wouldn't immediately play h3 once the knight went to g4. Okay. But it's still just taking this pawn, and he's going to take back, and then I will play h3 a little bit later. But again, that gives him 2 center pawns, and I'm just going to have this one, which doesn't seem like it's good for me. Like I said, this move by itself makes sense, but when I follow up into the aftermath, it doesn't look like it works out well for me. And my second best move is to take this now, which, again, has that same problem. Opens up his rook, gives him more center pawns than I have. I don't understand that. I am trying to, justify in my mind why I played bishop to b2 here, but I think it was because I saw this coming and I thought, if he does take, we're going to take, and I'm going to want my, my rook to be able to get out. Right now, my rook can't really get out. But that wasn't good because, and I did leave the lines on, it's because he can take here anyway, but again, wouldn't that leave me 2 center pawns? So I don't know. It keeps suggesting the best move for one player that looks like it works out better for the other player, so I'm lost. b5 is the next best move, and it does look like that's what he was preparing, and that's what he played. So we're very close to even, but only if I take here or take there. Well, that removes one of my defenders of my d-pawn. So I did the thing that I was talking about, which was get my rook over here behind this bishop, but now he can just take here and start breaking stuff open. And I think I do understand that because when he takes, if I take back, it says I wouldn't take back. Okay. He's going to take here, and it still says that my best move is to take here, which helps get his bishop out. Now he's not going to take with the f-pawn. He's going to take with the bishop. What? Okay. But I do understand that if I took back here, his knight is guarding that square, so he would end up with an extra pawn. I'm not sure. Wait, why? If he takes here, I'm going to take on the e-file. He's going to take back, and then I'm going to play knight to f4. Not the pawn this time, the knight. Okay. Well, as always, I have trouble deciding how far to follow that line out. I know I can click the arrow and it'll show me more possible moves, but we also know that with every move, each player has multiple choices, and so that's just one possible line of how things could play out. For example, if he took here, I would probably take with this pawn, knowing that I would lose a pawn, and then we wouldn't be in that line anymore. We would be in an entirely different line. So I'm never sure how far to follow those out. Sometimes if you follow it out 10 or 12 moves, you find an answer, and other times it's just a waste of time. But for some reason here, Anderson played knight e to d7, which is bringing this knight back. Now, I don't know why that's what he thought to play. I can't really explain that move. It does look like this is what he was setting up for. Okay, but that's what he played. Again, I can't explain it, and I only get an advantage from that blunder if I take here on e6, and he takes back with f6, which again looks like it gives him a center pawn. Except now I would be able to take this one because he's blocked his queen from defending that pawn. Okay, I think I understand that. So I should have just gone ahead and taken here, knowing that he could take back. He can't take back with the bishop now like it suggested earlier, but he can still take back with the f-pawn, but then I get the d-pawn, so I would go up a pawn at that point. Okay, I think I understand that. He would immediately attack my queen with the rook, and then I would just come back to where I started, and I would be a pawn ahead. I do understand that. And my second best move is to head off that pawn at the pass, but then he's going to take here. Okay, well, like I said, I do understand this part. I go up a pawn, but instead I got my queen off the back rank. Why did I do that? Well, it's one of the opening principles to get the queen developed off of the back rank so the rooks are connected, and I think that's what I was doing because I wasn't sure. I'm never sure which one of these, pawn breaks are best. Sometimes you're not supposed to take. You're supposed to move the other one even though that square's not defended, and then they take and you take, and I never know which one's the right one. I never know whether to, wait and let them take me or take them first. Never know when to give up a center pawn so that they have more center pawns, and I don't know how to know. And that's pretty frustrating. I have watched several videos on pawn breaks and how to know when to do pawn breaks, and none of them have helped at all. And I think it's because those videos are made by titled players who have played 100,000 games, and they just by now know instinctively which pawn breaks don't work and which ones do in certain positions. Maybe, I'm guessing, but I don't know. And I haven't played 100,000 games, so it hasn't settled in yet. Okay, but anyway, this is a blunder, but only if he takes my e-pawn now. But instead, he did what he had been planning on for a while, which was to take my c-pawn. And I wasn't supposed to take back. It's not that much worse, but I was definitely supposed to take the e-pawn again. But I took the c-pawn, and now he's supposed to take my d-pawn again. Or play knight to g4, which I don't know where knight to g4 would be going. And it says if he played knight to g4, I would immediately play h3, but it doesn't say what would happen after that. Would he put it back? We don't know because Stockfish didn't tell us. But maybe he didn't like that our rooks were very close to facing each other and that I could move this bishop at any time. Maybe he didn't like that. And also he has one piece besides the queen he hasn't developed yet, which was that bishop. So he got it off of the back rank, put another barrier between our two rooks. Again, I'm supposed to take the e-pawn or put my bishop back on its home square. Really? Okay, well, I never would have guessed that bishop to c1 was one of my possible good moves here, or not bad moves. I would have played bishop to a1 before I would have played bishop to c1. My reasoning being that the rooks would still be connected, which again is one of the opening principles that you're learning as a beginner and supposed to remember as a novice, which that's what I'm considering myself now. I can't consider myself a beginner because, well, I've been doing it too long and I know all the rules and I know basic tactics and how to solve puzzles and all the, major checkmates, not the two bishops one still. I haven't perfected that, but connecting the rooks. But that's bishop to c1. Unconnect the rooks. What is the bishop pointed at? Where is it going? Well, and I can tell from what I played that I didn't know what to do here, so I played a4. That to me, in my experience of my own play, is a signal that I didn't know what to do. I also thought if he ever pressed his a-pawn, then I would, have a nice safe square for my knight. Maybe that was it. And of course, these two pawns have been staring at each other for a long time. He's supposed to take it or play rook to e8 because the computer expects me to take his pawn. But he played queen to c7, I guess connecting his rooks, but I don't know really what his queen is pointed at from there. And now I'm supposed to put this knight back on d1. Okay. But we're still very close to even because neither one of us is playing the best moves on any of these turns. Knight to d1, that's my best move. And it says then he would take this pawn, and I would take back with the c pawn, and he would play rook f to c8 to start pushing that, maybe? Okay, well, I didn't play knight to d1. I played my f rook to d1 because I thought that this pawn might eventually get off that file and, then I would have my rook on a semi-open file. Again, he's supposed to take there. He did not. He brought this knight back, which is kind of what Stockfish said I should have done, but for him it was a mistake. And I also don't know. Okay, it might have been getting out of the way of the f-pawn. Did he move his f-pawn? No, not in the next several moves. But very often for players at my level, that's what that move means. Bringing the f-knight back is usually a sign that they want to play their f-pawn. Or it might have been getting out of the way of the bishop. Not sure, but yeah, I'm supposed to take the e-pawn again. I did not. Or play knight to f4, which pretty sure if I did that, he would have played e5. Yes, e5 is what I would have expected there, and Stockfish doesn't say what to do after that. Do I put the knight back? Do I put it over here? I don't know, because it doesn't make any sense to go there knowing he's going to play that. Well, I did the thing I talked about earlier, which was drop this bishop back to a1. It gets the bishop out of the way of the rook, but doesn't put it in between the rooks like Stockfish was saying earlier. Interestingly enough, he's supposed to bring his bishop back to the home square, or play e5. But he finally took that pawn. Finally. And I'm still very slightly ahead if I take back with the c-pawn. And we're even if I take back with the knight, but I took back with the e-pawn, and I can tell you why I did that. That's because that renders his bishop basically useless. These two pawns locked up here, blocking those two pawns. Where's that bishop going to go? At least that's what I was thinking. In hindsight, it's pretty easy. They can just move this pawn and put the bishop over here and aim at that, or bring it back around. It said he should bring it back around. In fact, it's saying it again, saying he should bring the bishop to c8 so that it does have somewhere to go. Okay, or h5, just start a kingside assault now, but instead he played knight to b6, which he had brought that knight back earlier. Now it's coming this way. That pawn's defended. Oh, but this one's not. My c-pawn is undefended, so I need to either play queen to a2, which defends the c-pawn, or knight to e4, which gets out of the way of my queen defending my c-pawn. I'm actually pretty surprised that I noticed that my c-pawn was in danger. And now he is supposed to trade off these bishops here. Anderson did not think that was a good idea. He put that bishop on c8. It's inaccurate now. Remember a turn or two ago, maybe 2 turns, it was his best move. But now that's inaccurate. Suddenly I have an advantage if I take his bishop. Well, I did, because his bishop's in a stronger position, or at least I thought that it was. I know that mine's kind of pointed near his king, so that makes mine seem stronger, but his is defending his king from a fairly strong position between these, fianchetto pawns here. So I took it, and he took back with the knight. Oh, maybe that's why he put that knight back earlier, because my bishop was pointed down there. I thought that was good, because since he has already moved the g-pawn and now there's no bishop in there, that those diagonals are a little weak, but I don't know. Well, now I played queen to a2, but now it's a mistake. Remember earlier was one of my best moves. It continues to guard these pawns. It's protecting the rook. I don't know why that's bad, but it is if he plays bishop to f5. Honestly, that's one of the reasons that I played here, knowing that he brought this bishop back, and one of the only places he can bring it out to is f5, which is going to threaten that knight. And then if I brought the knight back here with my queen still on c2, then my c-pawn would be undefended. Does that make sense? So I put my queen over here to defend the c-pawn, so when he does this, I can bring the knight back to c3. He did play bishop to f5. Oh, and I was supposed to check him. Wait, nope, it's changed its mind. Changed its mind. Knight 2 to c3. That's the other thing that I could do, is just defend the front knight. So I did that. And if I had done that earlier with my queen on c2, then I wouldn't be defending my c-pawn. So why was my queen move a mistake? I don't know. Now he's supposed to bring this knight back to d7, which it was a mistake when he put it there in the first place, but it's good move now. Instead, he moved his king over one. Now, if this was a grandmaster, there would be some inscrutable to me reason why you would move your king over. It was Anderson Connors who was rated very close to what I'm rated, so I assume that was kind of like my a4. Didn't know what else to do, moved a king over. I know a lot of times I feel like all my pieces are in okay positions, and if I move one of them, I see a fault with it. It's like, oh, if I move this, that leaves something undefended. Or if I move this, it's not guarding as much as it was before. And if he liked where all his other pieces were, that makes sense why he would have done that. Now I'm supposed to play a5, and I did. And this time, fairly obvious why. He's going to move the knight, and when he does, maybe we can trade off some rooks. He did move the knight, which is he was supposed to do a turn earlier, and I'm not supposed to trade off the rooks. Okay, I don't know why. I'm supposed to play queen to a4. Well, that continues guarding stuff, I guess, but I don't know why. Or h3. Why would I play h3? I would be playing g4 after that to force him to take the knight. Okay, see, I do understand h3. h3, and it says he would do something silly like rook to b4. Why in the world would he play rook to b4? And if he can play rook to b4, why would I want him to put my queen up here? Because if I did put my queen up there, he would have traded rooks. Oh my. Okay, so I would play h3, he would play rook to b4, and then I would come after the bishop, and since he doesn't have any safe squares to go to, he would take the knight, and I would take back. Okay, I should have played h3 here. That makes a lot more sense, I guess, than trading rooks, except, you know, why not trade rooks? It says I should move this over one, but instead I went over there to trade the other rooks, and he went ahead and did that. Now we're very close to even. You can see on this game review graph here, there's this huge, you know, zigzag, jagged section in the middle game. Apparently neither one of us are very good at the middle game, and we're getting pretty close to the big cliff here where Anderson Connors lost it all. I'm going to guess that was right around here, move 31. So let's just go ahead and go to there. That was okay. This was okay. We're between +1 and -1, but then he made a mistake. He hopped in here. Why was that such a big blunder? It's such a big blunder because I can play knight to b5. What? Okay, when that move first showed up there, it said +1.4, but Stockfish thought about it, and now it's only 0.8. So not a blunder. Would have been a mistake if Stockfish had run this much during the game review. But why in the world would I play that so that he can take it? And I would take. Oh, I would have two connected passed pawns. Is that what that's about? Sorry, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, but that's what it says I should have played. I would attack the queen, and it's by far their best move to take it, because otherwise they would just have to move the queen, and then I don't know what I would have done. But now I have two connected passed pawns. Almost, okay, right at +1 would be their best move to threaten my queen. I would just very gently move out of danger. I have to keep protecting that pawn because their queen's pointed at it. And then he would check me, and I would just go away, not toward, really. I would just go away from the knight, and then he would take here, maybe, or play queen to e7, maybe, because it would be pointed at that pawn. But if he played there, I could come over to e3. Oh, and get the knight? No, the knight would just get out of the way. And why would I have gone to e3? I don't know. Okay, but it does say he would take here probably, and of course I would take back, and then he would go here to aim at this pawn. Isn't that what it said? Oh, e7, to aim at my bishop. The only way I could hang on to my very slim advantage is to go to e3, which protects my bishop, attacks the knight, is protected by this pawn. The knight gets out of danger here and incidentally is aiming at that pawn. Would I move it forward? No, I would protect it like this. And even though Anderson Connors is up a full piece, it would not be to his advantage to take my queen because of the two protected connected passed pawns. He would want to run over here. But if I played b6, which I probably would, then I would be behind again. But wait, what happened to 0.8? What? No, come on. I was following out the best moves. Go way back to here. When he played knight to d3, it went 0.8. And I played the best moves for both people all the way through, and then it came down to 0.3 again, except it was plus 0.3. But that's really close. So this wasn't a blunder after all, and that's ridiculous. Yeah, come on. I don't believe Stockfish. See, that time I did follow that out. Where'd it go? The variation didn't stay there, did it? Well, that's frustrating. All the times I don't want the variation to stay there because it gets in the way and makes that list harder to read, it stays there. But this time it disappeared. Well, anyway, you saw how far I followed that out, and I don't understand how that gives me an advantage. And as you saw, the advantage crept closer and closer to 0 after a little while. So Stockfish can't see as far in advance as we sometimes give it credit for. Queen to a3 was not good. I don't know why. My idea, I think, was to aim at the knight in case I ever moved mine, but of course the knight can just run away. Did it run away? It's not supposed to. Queen to e7 again is what Anderson is supposed to play, but he played h6. Now I have an advantage if I play knight to b5. Oh my, I'm almost out of time here, and I still don't understand that, so I didn't play it. I played my second best move, which was bishop to f1, going after the knight. The knight is supposed to hop back to e5, which is what I thought he would do, but instead it went to b4. Okay, well, that's protected by a pawn. I don't see what's the problem with that. I'm supposed to go to c1. Not sure why. Or g4 now. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. And it says he wouldn't take the free pawn. Why wouldn't he take the free pawn that I just... That doesn't make sense to me, but I'm out of time. I can't really look at it. I played F3 to give an extra layer of protection to the knight in case I wanted to run around with the bishop someplace. I don't know where I would have gone. Probably not there. And he hopped in here, which, okay, that's the blunder that lost him the game, according to this graph here. But let's see if Stockfish brings it back down. It is coming back down because it was 3.5? But now it's 2.9. I wonder if we let the depth run a little longer, if it would come down even further. I mean, it seems like an obvious move and possibly why he went there in the first place, so he can attack my queen. But I'm fine if I go to C1. Only move. I wonder why B2 is so bad. It says either way he's going to take this other knight. But why is one so much worse? Because either way I'm going to take back when he takes the knight. Okay, if I had played queen to B2 instead, and he took the knight, and I took back, then he would hop this up here. But for some reason it says if I played queen to B1, queen to C1 is aiming at that pawn. Okay, well that's probably why I picked it. It took me a second to see it now, but a few days ago when we got to this point, that makes sense. That's why I probably would have picked this. It's threatening the knight and the H pawn. He is supposed to take this now, not protect the knight. So this further inaccuracy, which takes us up to nearly +5, it was over +5 before the Stockfish got a hold of it just now. That's more than an inaccuracy. If it goes from +3 to +5, that's like a mistake or a blunder. And it's because I can take the H pawn with check, which I did. So that was it, because I was able to get that one extra pawn. And that's what won me the game, apparently. Okay, G8 is one of the only moves. Oh, and again, I have an only move here. Knight to F6 check. Okay, I did see that. That is what I played. You can see the move list right here, but I'm surprised that that's my only move. It's the only move that presses my advantage. Okay, well, I had no idea about that. What I did know is that my queen's cutting this stuff off, and if I do check here on F6 with the knight, the king has to go further, which allows me to check in the corner, which forces it out, and I would get this knight. But that is my only move, so I'm very glad that I found it. But yeah, I did calculate that I would eventually get that knight, and it is not my only move to check on... What now? Oh, what? It says I can take the knight now, and I see it now because I've done enough puzzles. If I take the knight now, he's going to take, and then I assume I would check here and then win the queen. But as I already said, I figured out a way to get the knight without doing that, and now I can just take his knight. But for some reason, that's not as good as the other way. And is it because he can check me? Yes. He's supposed to take here and check me. He didn't notice it, and he went and got this free pawn. Well, now I can check over here with my knight on G8, and the king has to go further. It can't come up because of my pawn, can't go down there because of my queen. So I checked down there. His best move is D8 or D7, but instead he just went straight back. Well, that allows me to check again back, but that's just where I was. I definitely didn't want a repetition now that I'm a piece ahead. I do know that this knight's hanging, so I have to do something, but I don't. I'm supposed to check again with my knight on F6 and then move the other knight. But I moved the other knight first. That's a huge... What? Oh, it did it. It wasn't a blunder. Before I moved it, this number right here said 1.4. Which clearly is a blunder. If you go from +5 to 1.4, that's a blunder. But after I did it, the eval bar shot back up and it's +4.5, so it's not a blunder. Inaccuracy at worst. Okay, so the game review here is taking some cues from over on the other website where it's not being as helpful as it could be. Okay, so it wasn't a bad move. The glaring red circle there with the 2 question marks shouldn't be scary because as we saw from up here on this evaluation, that's not bad at all. I saved my knight. I'm coming after their king, and now Anderson saw that he could take that pawn and check me. That also removes the defender of this knight. But I just come toward the knight. Surprisingly, it's not his best move to take here. And he didn't. I'm wondering that now because after I did this and moved the king, I see that. I'm like, oh, why? He could just take here. Why? I have to know. Why isn't that the best move? Because I can just get the bishop. I don't know if I would have seen that during the game. Okay. Well, I had to know, but after I came up here, he checked me again down on G1, and I'm just supposed to go back to G1 even though he could check me again. It doesn't say he would because there's no moves listed there. Come on, Stockfish, help us out. Again, just like the problems I've been having with Stockfish over on the other website, this has to be a very simple coding error when the Stockfish engine is plugged into the website or when it's, I don't know, maybe if it's downloaded and running on my end, I have no idea, but there's a coding error or something that makes it just show one move, and I have no idea what to expect after that. But I played the best move, which was to just go toward the knight and force it to go away again. Maybe over here. He was supposed to let it go. Just take here, and I wouldn't take the knight. Oh, I can't take the knight. It's protected right now. Okay. So he's supposed to take mine, but instead he ran away with his. Maybe he didn't realize it was protected either. That's interesting. Now it's a mate in 11. Did I mate in 11? Oh, I did. I made it in 6. Okay, well, good for me. I'm supposed to check him one way or another. Oh, I can check right there. Knight, why didn't I see that? I went the other way. That's a mistake, and now it's back to +5. But my thought was he can't come up because the other knight's protecting that. So he's going to have to go over one of these ways. And either way, I'm going to be able to check him after that. So he went to D8. I followed with my queen. He went to C7. I checked down here. How many places does he have to go? It says his best is to go to B6, but that looks a little trapped, right? He can't get around because, you know, my pawns are covering both of those squares. But that's what it said his best move is. He must have been thinking like me and just went over and didn't want to end up, you know, trapped by these pawns. But that gives me a mating sequence again, because this time I did see that that pawn was there for the taking. He played his best move. I'm supposed to check knight to, okay. Knight to B5, it says, and they're just going to take it, but somehow that gives me a mating sequence. Well, I checked here, and he should have blocked with the bishop. Well, if he had blocked with the bishop, I think I was just going to come after it with the knight. But if he had blocked with the bishop, it would have delayed things quite a bit longer. But instead he went back there, which gives me a mate immediately. Okay, well, I didn't quite learn as much from that as I had hoped to, and this took even longer than the first one, so I apologize. If you learned something from this, please let me know. Or if you have a tip to help me learn something from this, please let me know. Either way, thank you for spending your time here, and I'll see you next time.